Hi, everybody. I'm Tana Gutierrez, and this is your Witch's Work Lesson 3. And I thought we would try something a little bit different today. So, having our sessions in video format is new, anyhow. So, I've been teaching sessions on my website, unicornwellness.studio, for 5 years now. And this year, I felt really compelled to transition them into a video format because we do video format all the time. Our workouts are via video, the tarot readings for members are video, our guided meditations are video, and this way you all can participate as if we were in a workshop scenario. And so as we go, this is the second session we've done in video format. I really want to be able to connect with you best as possible. I'm also working on cleaning up my schedule and minimizing some editing time and some functionality so that I can just be more present and more energetic, not only for you, but for my family in our day-to-day life. So integrity, right? Keeping things simple, keeping things in balance. So today we're going to try lesson 3 live, and I know that most of our subscribers, they're scattered all over the world on unicornwellness.studio, will watch this after the fact. Lessons will still arrive for members in an email alert with a little extra info in there with a link to this video tomorrow. But for those of you that could join me today, hi! You guys say hi. I'm shooting on my phone today, which is also new. So many new things happening. Yay! Hi, Shauna. So if you guys can comment that you're here, a couple little emojis, it helps me know that you're here. And I think there is a tiny delay on it. So working in the workshop, live scenario will change this a bit. Hopefully, hi, Maria, in really constructive ways. You all can ask questions. Meanwhile, I don't want to go over the hour mark because it is still a video that we're going, oh, good. This is still a video that's going to go out to the majority, 300 plus that have registered for this session. So we want to keep it to a minimum, but I want you to ask questions. I want you to comment and participate. And this session, this is also the first time I'm teaching this session. So this lesson and Witch's Work in particular is still a work in project. It's a work in progress, and your feedback is really important to me. So I hope the live variation speaks to you, and I know timing is weird, but here we go, right? So lesson 3. I do like to check in on how last week went. If you all have any comments about that, let me know. Put them up there. But lesson 3 could stand alone. This week's assignment is the tarot. Please know that I do not assume to be able to teach anyone the tarot in 1 hour, okay? This is part of Witch's Work, right? Witch's Work is about expanding our personal magic, our capacity to manifest in the world, and the intensity at which we are capable of aiming and keeping and holding our intention, right? And so in Witch's Work this month, we're looking at intention plus ritual, because to me, that is what witchcraft is. That is what a spell is. You're bringing in layers in order to give it more grounding and more root in both the 3D physical plane and in the ethers in order to create magic. And what is magic? Magic is anything wonderful in our lives. It is miracles. It's the things we want to have happen. And it is co-creatorship with divine source. So we use a lot of different verbiage to connect to these things, but it's really basic and practical tactics that we're working with. So lesson 3 is about the tarot for you all. No, I'm going to repeat it. I do not assume to be able to teach anyone the tarot in 1 hour. This is an overview. This is also a response to a lot of requests for me to teach the tarot. And one of those sessions is coming. This is going to take a little bit more time. Hi, Joy. So it'll take some time for me to get to a full tarot session. Okay. Look at you guys. But this is like the baby beta version, right? Good morning, Tracy. So I have a lot to pack in. Hi, Kayla. Yay. Yeah, I'm figuring out my YouTube stuff too, just so you know. So this session lesson is a capsule of the tarot. There's a lot to offer, and I love it. It's a very personal practice and a very personal relationship, the tarot and I, for the last 22 years. So today we're really focusing on the basics with a good understanding, and then we're just going to aim at the assignment of it being practical tactics of how to read and pull cards every day this week. This week meaning if you want to start tomorrow, if you want to start today, but lesson 3, the week to come, that you're going to be pulling cards every day. You're going to be journaling about them, and you're going to be working through and beginning a relationship of reading the tarot for yourself. Okay, so this assignment anchors us in a tool of divination, tarot cards. There are multiple tools of divination, right? There's tea leaves. There's runes. There's all kinds of ways to read things and to bring messages through and to connect to a spiritual ritual and practice. But we are using the tarot today and this week. So the purpose in this assignment is to anchor us in a tool of divination to expand our personal magic. And what do I mean by personal magic? Go back to lesson 2 and lesson 1. But for me, our personal magic is our intuition. Okay. And so a relationship and a consistent relationship of pulling tarot cards increases your intuition. What it really increases is your capacity to listen to it and to understand the signs, symbols, and omens coming to us at all times from the universe. Okay. So this, to me, creates a magical life. I do believe that most things have meaning. Everything can have meaning if we give it meaning or if we see meaning in it. Notice I didn't say everything has meaning. I do think that creator, God, goddess, divine spirit, universe has a mean sense of humor, meaning like sometimes they do shit just to mess with you. Are you going to put meaning on that? Are you going to follow that or not? And they're wanting to have fun sometimes too. And you go, okay, that had no meaning. That was super random and just happened. Okay, so the tarot allows us to anchor into signs, symbols, and omens. Mostly signs and symbols, right? Because it's pictures. And so, again, I'm just stressing, it's a lot to cram into an hour. So I'm hoping that we just get a good solid base of beginning a beautiful relationship with the tarot for you all. Okay. And so for those that you are coming in and joining, go ahead and say hi in the comments. If there's emojis to put up, I don't know if that is the case on YouTube or not live. Ask questions, leave your comments. This is part of what's going to help me. Witches work is something this session I'm really committed to and I love very much, but this is the first go around of teaching it. So feedback is great. Intuitive Tarot 101 will be happening this year as a session, but I think it's going to look a little bit different and it's going to need time. This is the beginning of that session, okay? So when we put out Witches Work and we ask the questions of, hey, we're going to have this lesson this year. Oh, cold Ontario. Yeah, cold Brooklyn too. Probably not as cold as you guys. What is the power of the tarot? What is the purpose of the tarot? And you know me, when I answer things, I'm not giving absolutes. I don't believe in absolute answers. I believe in answering something from what is the goal? How do you feel about it? And then allowing those things to unravel. So what is the purpose of the tarot? The purpose of the tarot is different depending on the reader or your belief system. Okay, so again, there's not one hard and fast rule about the tarot. Again, much like what is a witch? Who is a witch? It's anybody. It can look like anything. Some believe that the tarot is fortune telling, right? I can see the future. Others believe that it is channeled messages from guides, guardian angels, higher self, divine spirit, archangels, like straightforward. And then still others believe that it is very simply a tool of sifting and sorting based on the human psyche, right? Of heroes, myths, metaphor, allegory, and just straight up symbolism. So what is the purpose of the tarot really depends on the reader and the receiver. So if you're reading for yourself, it'll depend on you, okay? whatever the belief perspective of which direction you're coming from. Yay! Whatever belief perspective you're coming from, the tarot brings clarity and focus to human inquiry. And that's where I believe its beauty lies. And so if we've got a podcast on the Unicorn Wellness podcast studio, is tarot better than therapy? Like I'll drop the link below after we've recorded today. If you all have not listened to that, go listen to that. There is just mountains of misconception around the tarot. And I answer emails and comments about it all the time. So it gets to be much like your personal witchcraft, what you put into it, what you believe it to be. And it's not up to somebody else to tell you what it is or how it should look. This is your relationship with yourself and with bigger ideas, concepts, and questioning, okay? So the purpose of the tarot really is to bring clarity, whether it's via magic and channeled messages from the guides and guardian angels, or just a simple way to sort through feelings and emotions and brew questions and allow for self-evaluation and self-inquiry. It kind of doesn't matter. It always serves a purpose for the higher and greater good, right? If you allow it to. So we're looking for constructive ways to support yourself in this 3D incarnation that allow you to progress and evolve and heal for the better. So do I think that tarot can be fortune telling? Sometimes. Do I read from that perspective? No. Am I telling your fortunes when you come to me? No, I'm not. Am I a channel? Yes, personally, I am. Will you develop as a channel? Maybe. You know, so it all depends. So this goes back to what is intuition, right? Intuition is the knowing without knowing why you know. The things that you feel in your gut that you're like, you can explain it to me 17 different ways. I don't attach to that. I don't believe that to be true. And so our intuition is our connection to the divine, to something bigger than ourselves, to remember and to know and to anchor in that we are a spiritual being having a human experience. Intellect is really important, but it's not the only gig. Okay. And so to have a really well expressed life in relationship, not feeling like the victim, feeling in co-creatorship of, I have power here. I have choices here. I can make change. I can make things better. I can progress. I can learn. We have to have that relationship to our intuition. Okay. So not everyone will be ready for the messages that the tarot brings. It's not, it's not everybody's thing. Okay, not everyone will understand the messages that come through. That's okay. And that doesn't mean the messages aren't there. Sometimes it just takes practice and understanding what the messages are and how they make sense to you. And that is the relationship and the power and the purpose of the tarot. It is about seeing what is reflected, what you hear, what you see, what you feel, and then what like the basics are. So it really does straddle the two of humanity and divinity, right? You can take it as purely mundane 3D, heroes, myths, allegory, and metaphor. It's still useful. Or you can really anchor in and start to have an experience with the channeled, divine, intuitive, magical sense of like, nobody could have, that's what I hear and that's what I see and that's what I feel and I'm going to move through with that, okay? Everybody with me so far? The power of the tarot is really what we just talked about. Its capacity to instigate positive change, realizations, ahas. It's giving us a moment of pause and anchoring in the world. So it is believed that everyone has a tool of divination that's more attuned to them. Okay, meaning that yours might be the tarot and maybe it's not, and maybe it is runes and maybe it's not, and maybe it's tea leaves and maybe it's not, but that we should each play and explore what allows us to connect to our intuition in deeper ways that gives meaning to simple things, gives clarity on how to move forward and how to problem solve. Okay, so you all know me, I'm very, very practical. Like grounded, right? Kitchen witch right here, sitting with my tea in my kitchen. But I very much understand miracles and information and ideas and ahas that I know didn't come from me. Okay? So the power of tarot is that it can instigate change. and that it does allow for the, oh my gosh, I never understood that before, and I totally get it, and I see where my responsibility is and where the healing is and where forgiveness can be, or the step that I need to take. It really can connect this 3D incarnation to divine spirit. It's just one way to do it, okay? It helps us to see the difference between myth and reality, fact and fiction, and what I call feels versus feelings. We are human and we will have feelings, all kinds of feelings. And then there's the feels. And the feels to me is your intuition, like that deep feels that just won't go away. I just don't trust this person and they've done nothing for me to, not trust them, but I'm just not going to, because I'm going to trust that feel. Our feelings are very emotional and they're not always true or accurate. Our feelings aren't always accurate. Sometimes our feelings are completely irrational because we're human, because we don't want to recognize where our responsibility is, because we don't want to say we're sorry. It's usually feelings are like where we don't want to be wrong. So the tarot and a consistent practice will help you sort those, especially if you're a highly emotional feeling and feels person, which I am, okay? And sometimes I have trouble with all the feelings that I get of going, where is my truth in this? Where are my feels in this? And then how do I make a decision that I feel comfortable with in all of it? Okay. So the tarot can be very practical. It is not something you need to go sharing with everybody, because when you do, you're going to get judgment on it. Just be ready for that. And until you're ready to answer and to stand in your own knowing, in your own intuition, in your own non-judgment of people who don't understand, then don't make it a big old public thing. It's yours. It's a private practice, right? Unless you get messaging and you're ready for it not to be so private, okay? How does a consistent tarot practice increase magical power, intensify a spell, increase our intuition and our personal capacity to manifest? So I wrote a lot. I write these lessons out first and then go, what really needs to be heard and shared here? A consistent practice of the tarot does increase your intuition, okay? The stronger our trust and surrender and faith in the divine, whatever that means to you, whatever path and whatever verbiage and whatever translation that takes, okay? But the stronger our trust is with co-creatorship in a divine, wide, big, expansive, energetic universe, then our ability to trust ourselves gets bigger and deeper and wider and more powerful. So when we talk about casting a spell, directing intention, increasing our magical capacity, our fire capacity, our rootedness, our groundedness, our safety, our sense of safety in the world. If you want to cast a spell and harness energy of the universe with your focused attention, with a beautiful ritual, right? You're doing that because you want to bring something into fruition in this physical plane, in this lifetime experience. So the more you're honing your intuition and having that conversation with the universe, which the tarot is to me, is a conversation. It usually just calls you on your shit. It's not really about like fortune telling. You ask a question, you're like, that reflection was loud. I got some self-responsibility here to deal with, okay? So the stronger our trust in the divine and our role as co-creatorship in this personal incarnation, the ability to hear our intuition increases. And that strengthens our personal magic because we are more entrusted and empowered in ourselves, in our decisions, in what we believe, in what we feel, not necessarily in our feelings, okay? So then our capacity to manifest becomes greater because our sense of trust and surrender and faith that the universe has our back, that our intentions are pure, that our intentions are concrete and concentrated, then that our capacity to manifest and make change and evolve, okay? So when practiced consistently, a tarot practice takes the permission. This is one of my favorites. I wrote it last night and I went, yeah. It takes the permission from others out of our lives. We trust in the divine, therefore we trust in ourselves more. It's really like, it's between me and goddess. It's between me and God. It's between me and the cards. Like, I'm dealing with it. I'm sorting through it. I don't need your judgment. I don't need your permission. And this is about a life well lived, meaning joy and love and abundance. That's my goal as a teacher, is to instigate and pop open and initiate that you all deserve a beautiful, abundant, healed, healthy life. All the while knowing there's going to be mess. There's going to be problems to solve, because that's what life is about. But how we navigate those problems becomes smoother. Our capacity for joy becomes larger. Our attraction and manifestation and magnetism of love becomes stronger. So the more we practice with the tarot, it increases our capacity for magic, because it's all the same stuff. One house, many windows, right? Like this connection to the divine brews confidence and security in ourselves and our decisions. It also brews more confidence and security that we're not alone in this, that we have support from the universe, that the universe has got our back, right? But it is a co-creatorship. The universe does not drop miracles in your lap unless you're clear that you deserve them, that you can be in good stewardship of them, and that you've learned the lessons in order for you to keep them. And every life looks different, right? But I am looking and teaching from a soul expansion and a healing frequency perspective. So, what does it have to do with increasing your magical power? It's about increasing your trust in something bigger than yourself, in magic, divine spirit, God, goddess, higher self, archangels, guides and guardian angels. Again, whatever verbiage works for you, all right? And it takes the permission out of your own damn life, because I know so many of us spend some time and, well, I can't do that because this person won't like it, or if I do this, I'm going to get judgment, or if I, I shouldn't take up that much space in the world. Who am I to know this better than somebody else? Maybe you don't know it better than anybody else, but everybody needs a teacher. Everybody deserves an abundant life. Maybe you just know it as well as other people, and there's just a spot for you to fill in the world, right? I'm trying to read through the comments as we go. Yeah, Tracy, that's such a great point. Oh, good. Kayla, just watch this tomorrow. Thanks for showing up, though. So, yeah, Tracy, this is going to be one of those videos, hopefully, that you all do share with people that you trust, that you want to understand why I do it. But also know, it doesn't really matter if other people understand or not. It just doesn't. Because if it's yours and it helps you grow, it makes you feel secure and happy and healthy and loving. Okay, we don't want to be invested in things or spend time doing things that make us feel shitty, like we're making the wrong decisions, that we're always wrong, that we're always bad. No. So again, I think that you could use what we're saying about the tarot nearly for anything. Do you know what I mean? It is the thing that has been a mainstay in my life that really, when I really anchored into it daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, changed my capacity for gratitude and joy and my experience in life. This is the thing, and so we're sharing it. I'm sharing it with you all. One, because as members, you all have asked me to teach this. And two, if you want to share it with others, please do, but know that it may not convince them. It may not be time for them to understand. It may not be in their genetic DNA or in their, light body DNA to understand this in this lifetime. So don't ever look at information that we're teaching and gathering as ways to convince. Just, if you need to feel comfortable in yourself, that you do it. That's it. You know what I mean? It's for you. It's a personal practice. So to clarify, it looks like there's more comments. Yeah, totally. And so today, like I said, it's really difficult to teach tarot in an hour. So there's going to be a lot of things that you're like, I didn't get that. Or it's just not time yet. And we're just going to do what we can today to get literally the wheel rolling. Okay. To clarify, I teach intuitive tarot. Like, that's what I'm going to be working with you all on, especially in today's lesson. So there are classic traditional readings of every single card out there and available. All right. But I am specifically interested in your soul evolution. to its highest and greatest good. And the most usefulness in this lifetime of the collective, meaning I want you all deeply connected to your intuition. I want you all deeply and strongly rooted in the divine and messages from the divine, and working in co-creatorship to make decisions and to create in this world and to heal. One, it's the only way you're going to heal. And two, this moves the collective consciousness forward in a big way. So we will talk, when I teach Intuitive Tarot 101, about the individual classic readings of the card, because I'm also a purist. I think you need to know the history of things before you break the rules a little bit. We do not have time in this lesson to do that today. So know that there are classical readings of the cards, and that you are welcome to initiate that research on your own in this week. But we're really focusing on an intuitive style method. Okay, and we'll get to what that means here in just a little bit. I always, in readings with me, I always give the classic meaning because it's a jumping off spot of things. But just like in lesson 2, when we talked about being a bad witch, like there's only one way to do it. Am I doing it right? Is this going to break the whole spell? Did I just ruin everything? No, it's about your connection and your belief system in it and your comfort in it. Being able to read the cards intuitively is the truth of the reading, especially when you're reading for yourself. Okay, so today and this week we're focusing on the intuitive method. And again, I always, classic, you need to know the rules before you can break them. We're going to go a little bit backwards, but I think when it comes to tarot, that's okay. I'm classically trained in Pilates. The food reset is about coming from a pure, clean space with food, then layering in things. To me, the tarot is about the intuitive portion of the tarot is the purest version. Then we layer in the cognitive traditional. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you all. Okay, here we go. Tarot basics. I'm going to have a sip of tea. All right, the history of tarot is one of those things that's like already shrouded in mystery, and we don't have all the concrete facts of it at all. Okay, we know that they probably, so here we go already, we don't really know, we think that they originated with Arabic slaves. So that was a long time ago. And their presence wasn't paid much attention to, but that they had incarnations and variations the whole way, through scales of time. What we do know is that they showed up as a parlor game in Italy in the 14th century, and they stayed. But when they showed up in the 14th century, it really was a game like bridge. There were pictures, there were rules, you win and lose, you played with a group, okay? So the images of important events, were on these cards, but they evolved into allegory, metaphor, heroes, and myths. So again, it's one of those like people who understand or don't understand, or like, I love the concept of people that it's the gateway for the devil, and that you're automatically associated with the dark side if you are touching tarot. That is such an antiquated, outdated, fear-based, religious, patriarchal way to look at it, and I'm not going to mince words on that. So it's just lame. Just know that whether it's dark or light, God, light, universal source is much more powerful than to be thwarted by a deck of cards. And the darker side of it too, they are like vampires. They can't come unless you invite it. That's a whole nother thing. So maybe I shouldn't have exactly said that. But a deck of cards is not responsible for your soul's fall off the planet, or for the capacity to help heal and illuminate. Only you can make that decision. The tools of either are just the tools of either. So again, intention is where it's given, and meaning where it's given. So the cards are just a deck of cards. If you choose to head down a darker path with them, that is your choice, and that is a gateway you personally open. Cards can't do that on their own. Okay? So when we look at being a card reader, the history of it isn't actually in the dark. That was a false, paradigm and propaganda from classical religious churches, because they wanted you in church paying tithe, reading the Bible. And the Bible's a beautiful, beautiful text, right? So it's all in how we use things. You could say certain things about the tarot. You could say it about the Bible, really. So I know my inbox is going to be full on that one. So whether or not you support their magical or their, divination aspects, they have a very pragmatic role in sifting, sorting, and organizing human emotions and allowing it to be a reflective time for you to have ahas, ideas, breakthroughs for the better and to understand, right? So scientifically, here's what I think is really beautiful about the tarot, and I haven't really expressed this before. What we know scientifically, proven science, analytics, is that our brains love storytelling. They love it. Okay, and we also know that storytelling is like one of the oldest traditions, and that cave paintings and wall paintings were a way of telling stories and passing things to generations and exploring and understanding and sharing. So we know that when there's storytelling, oxytocin is actually released in the brain, which is the feel good. It feels good, right? And so whether or not you believe in magic, the capacity for signs, symbols, and omens to elicit a feel-good feeling, a sense of hope and potential and possibility and problem solving and optimism versus pessimism and like everything's spiraling, it's all going to hell. A visual layout of things, it literally makes our brains happy to have order visually in a storyline and in our answers, choices, paths, information, and potential. It's why we love movies. It's why we love books. So the tarot takes it even a step further of taking the talk and the words out of it, which can be complicated to a brain, and boils it down into visual representation, which we're going to talk about this later, that triggers thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas, but it also triggers oxytocin. So it's really helpful. And again, when we talk about is tarot better than therapy, I have had unbelievably innumerable clients go, oh my God, I had an entire breakthrough in this one reading and I've been paying for shrink for 10 years. Not to say that's not necessary or useful. I do understand the value of it, and I'm not saying to ditch your support system in that way. What I'm saying is that sometimes when we go to therapy and it's just words are air, the element of air. It just spirals. It doesn't get grounded. It doesn't get tethered. And remember, there's no manifestation if there's no grounding. So tarot cards act as a grounding element to sort and sift and reflect. Meanwhile, our human brains love visual representation, and it releases oxytocin, which is the feel-good hormone. So there's so many wonderful things when you're working with the tarot that work with our primal body system. Because as much as our technology is fast and advanced, our system's actually pretty archaic, okay? All right, so there's another reason in the tarot is that, rather than solely relying on feelings, thoughts, or words, it gives visual representation, which then triggers different ideas, different avenues, different ways of dealing with a problem or navigating a scenario, okay? Let's look. Okay, looking back at my notes, making sure I'm trying to find a linear process. This is a good place for comments or questions, by the way. And I can't see the comments the whole time. They pop in and pop out. So if I've missed something, you guys let me know. Yeah, there's not a full linear timeline to follow for the tarot. We know that they've been around for thousands of years in some variation or other. We do know they showed up in the 14th century in Europe and stayed. And then, made their way through their variations. Okay. Oh, I already told you guys that. We're not going to break down every card in this session. We'll do that when I teach Intuitive Tarot 101, whenever that is this year. Soon, I hope. Okay. So, from here, let's just talk about basics because we want to get into the basic assignment and the lesson for the week. Tarot versus oracle cards. So, they're two different things. Okay? They can serve a similar purpose, but they're different. So I know that I have a lot of beginners with me who will be watching this after the fact today. Oracle cards are standalone cards, okay? There really are no rules with oracle cards. They can be any number, they can be any topic, but they are face value in what comes out in the cards when you pull. So like this is the Goddess Guidance Oracle deck. So it's like a goddess, and then it gives a direct like, hey, this is what this goddess is bringing up for you today. It also comes with a booklet that will give you more information about that goddess or about the card. I mean, I've got so many decks and I'm only choosing to share 2 with you. One of my favorite oracle decks is the Soul Space Oracle, and it's Gender Lingo. She's an artist, and I don't know if she's going to be making these anymore, but they're beautiful watercolors. She's a watercolor artist with, look at that. That was serendipitous. Just words. And so for those of you who do readings with me privately, you know that I always use these in the 3-card reading for the spirit in which to move through. It's really practical. It's really straightforward. Yes. Okay. So whoever had said that your mom's a really intuitive person, but you don't always understand hers. Yes. So my husband and I have this. He will get messages from me that were like, I have no idea what that means. And then in the end, it's not that they were wrong. I just didn't understand the translation. This is why honing your own intuition is so important. I will say, as a part of my ego, and because I used to go to readers all the time since I was 18, right? Like, when you have readers who are a channel, there are some people who are genuinely gifted at bringing messages through for other people. Okay, so let's be clear about that. I touched on it, but you can read for yourself. It is unbelievably important to have a personal connection to your own intuition, because someone else's intuitive messaging system isn't always a translation that you will understand. Okay, that's 1. 2, people who choose to be a channel or a healer or a reader professionally typically do have a talent for bringing messages to other people. So this is where it gets a little sorted too. Like, you want to read for your friends. It's always fun to do it and like do it. But know that, you know, it's just like, okay, everybody can sing, right? Some people are really talented vocalists. There's a span and a spectrum. And I talk about this with your intuition. Everyone is intuitive. Everyone can sift, sort, understand messages from the divine for themselves if they anchor into a consistent practice of understanding, tracking, and then seeing how your personal messages come through, because we each have a different language with the universe. So I love that point of like, hey, my mom's highly intuitive, but then when she tells me, I have no idea what that means. We have that same scenario in our house. Like, messages will come through for my husband. I'll have him ask, and like, I'm like, I don't know. That just confused things more. And then what do? I get real clear about my question. I go to my cards and I go, okay, I get it now. So work with yourself first, then start to play, if you're called to it, reading for friends and others. Then see if there's accuracy over time and repetition with what you're bringing through for them. Does that make sense? Then there will be some of us who go, oh, nope, this is stuff that comes through that I have no idea where that came from. And that's when you know that you're a channel for things, that stream starts to push through and you're like, I had nothing to do with any of that messaging. I allowed a space for it to come through. So there's different variations, right? So again, when we're looking at oracle cards, these are very straightforward. In the Unicorn Wellness Handbook, my book, I do talk about, I think this is a great starting place, right, for a card practice and for intuition. But this week, we're focusing on the tarot because you've asked for it and because I think it's an important progression. So if you've never worked with oracle cards, do not worry, it's okay. But just know that they're different from tarot. There's no rules with the oracle. There can be any number in the deck. They can literally look like anything, but they are always face value of what's on the card. There's no mystery, okay? Like, they're very comforting and straightforward. So, here we go. When you work with the tarot follows a pattern, and there are some rules to it, okay? So, it is mired in tradition, and we'll get through like what the practicalities in the tradition are. So tarot decks, again, can also look like anything. This is a more classic deck. All right, this is the Robin Wood deck. I actually don't have my Rider-Waite with me, and most of these are upside down. Hey, now. I lent it to a friend. I lent a giant box of cards to a friend when we went to Spain. So they can also look like anything. They can have any theme, okay? So that's that one. It's a little more classical. This is one that I love right now, which is the Alice in Wonderland tarot. Okay. And then this is one that's the Tapestry tarot. I'm just showing you because they can look like so many different things, right? That This one is literally a physical tapestry that's had photographs taken and it's been broken down into cards. But the tarot has a pattern and some rules, okay? There's 78 cards in a tarot deck. Can some special decks have one extra card? Yes, that's kind of a thing lately also, to have like the Fountain Tarot has an extra card in the deck that's particular to that deck and its creators, which I think is beautiful. But a traditional tarot deck has 78 cards, okay? There are major and minor arcana cards in the deck, all right? So you have 22 major arcana and 56 minor arcana cards. So this is the rules of a tarot deck. Major arcana cards, this is where we're going to do a little bit of breakdown, but not much more. Major arcana cards have to do with spiritual evolution, karma, karmic closures, ditching baggage in this lifetime. They are big ideas, big concepts, big lessons, okay? And it's past the day-to-day stuff. These are things that are energetically asking us to level up, to grow, to mature, and to amplify, and to ascend, okay? Minor arcana cards have to do with the day-to-day business of things. So minor arcana cards have suits, just like in a deck of playing cards. You have earth, air, water, and fire, and they can be represented in different ways. Earth is typically pentacles, air is typically swords, water is typically cups, and fire is typically wands, all right? But again, there is variation depending on the deck. But minor arcana cards are about choices, habits, tactics, and people in our lives. So those are like the two big sides of the tarot, and those are the typical structure and kind of rules of it again. When you pick a deck, so this is, you know, if you all are doing this lesson this week and you don't have a deck yet, don't panic, okay? How do I pick a deck? There is some, you know, mythology that to be a tarot reader, or if you have a gift as a reader, that you will be gifted a deck from the universe from someone. Okay, that's kind of one of those, like, if you have a calling, like, go buy a deck. So then how do you choose a deck? People will say to go with the Rider-Waite deck, and I've been known to say that also because it's the traditional classic deck. I did start with the Rider-Waite deck, and I found it went dark very quickly, that I was overwhelmed with the traditional meanings because I have turned out to be such an intuitive reader and a channel. Trying to go with a classic deck and the basic, like, traditional reading meanings, I had a lot of confusion with that deck. So I think if it calls to you, if a deck inspires you, if you love to look at the pictures, choosing a deck is your first step in exercising and anchoring and growing your intuition. So are there rules to choosing a tarot deck? No. The only rule is choose what you like. Choose what you love. Choose what calls to you. Now, what you like and what you love may not be what calls to you. So here's the weird part about it. So if you go to look at decks, or if you're ordering online, just make sure you look at the pictures, right? I have a deep love for Alice in Wonderland. And so when this deck came about, I was like, oh, it's beautiful, and the story, right? I have seen other Wonderland decks that I was like, that doesn't do it for me in the least bit, much as I love, you know, the story. So you have to love it. You have to like to look at the images, and that's how you'll pick, okay? Okay. So, reiterating, we are focusing on intuitive reading this week because that is something you can do without a whole lot of research, all right? If you have never pulled tarot before, or you simply want to go back to basics, we're getting into our assignment this week, or you really want to hone your intuition and grow your magic, I want you all to go to a single card reading this week. So again, there's a few of you here with me live today. This was like spur of the moment yesterday. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna do this live. There'll be nearly, you know, over 300 of you who will watch this after the fact. So this week, the assignment is to pull cards every week, and I'm going to give you the assignment here in a second. But if you have a practice and you feel like, oh no, I'm good. This week, the purpose is to hone your intuition, to grow your intuition, to see things differently in the cards. So I would like us to begin with a single card pull this week. There's other options though too. Okay, so this week, don't look up the card meanings. Don't. Everybody's got their, once you get your deck or you have your deck, they all come with a booklet of some kind. Okay, so I'm teaching because this would have saved me a lot of time and effort had I heard anybody say this. Don't use the booklet initially or this week. That's what we're not doing. Okay, so because we're looking for your intuition to come through. Their intuition guided them to write the booklet that came with the deck, and sometimes they're very valuable. If you find yourself to be highly intuitive, or you know you're a channel, or you know you're highly psychic in other areas, clairsentience, claircognizance, clairaudience, any of the clairs, then I want you to really cut yourself off from what the perceived ideas of what it should be saying to you, and literally open the gates to divine messaging of what does it say for me right now in this moment. Okay, so don't look up the card meanings this week. You're going to pull one card every day this week. There's options. If you're a total beginner, you will do this one card pull every day this week, or as many days as you can. If you're a practice reader and you want to really get into the intuitive portion of it and revisit this, and it's always good to go back to basics, because basic is not very basic if you've got to practice. Then you'll go to this one card pull. We've got some options after this one card pull. So this week, you get your deck. Do not look at the booklet. Pull one card every day. Make sure you have time to journal. You're going to pull one card, and you're just going to look at it. You're just going to look at it. What's it look like? And you're going to have your journal, and you're going to journal everything the card brings to mind. How does it make you feel? What does it make you think? What song popped into your head when you saw the card, when you pulled the card? What do you notice mostly in the card? Is it a color that's overly loud to you? Is it this tiny little speck somewhere? You'll hear me in readings where I'm like, I've never noticed that before in this card. Things will speak to you very loudly, okay? So journal endlessly after you pull a card, and really just sit there with your journal and your card and go, okay, so I see this, this, and this, and this. This makes me think of this, right? This makes me think of that. So this card, as we sit here and look at this, right, it's got a classical meaning. We're not going to talk about it right now. So this is Two of Swords. In the Alice in Wonderland deck, she's sitting under a full moon that's a cat face. Hello, this week, Monday, we're in a Leo full moon, total lunar eclipse. So you know that by pulling this card today, there's importance on that aspect of things. What does it totally mean? Not quite sure yet. We're not going to judge it right now. Right now, we're just noticing and journaling and not putting any shoulds, have-tos, or permission slips on it, or any boundaries of what it brings up, right? So again, the classic meanings of cards, in my experience, in my belief, can really block what you're supposed to hear, think, or know to make you and to allow you to progress proactively and productively and positively, all the P's, down your path, okay? So when we're pulling a single card this week, you're not even asking a question of it. You're just practicing, honing, and starting to go, hey, card, imagery, what does it make me think of? What story just popped into my head? Oh my God, I pulled this out and I was thinking about this argument with my sister 17 years ago. Write it all down, okay? Because being psychic and being intuitive is a lot about our own thought process, which is why in meditation, I'm not totally a fan of trying to get to a silent, no business meditation. If you're trying to cut off anything running through your brain in meditation, then you're also cutting off your line to divine messaging, because that's typically what divine messaging sounds like on a major scale, right? You have an idea that came out of nowhere. You were put things together and had an aha. That's what a download is. It's like this instant moment of oh, that just makes sense for the very first time, and it's been staring at me for 10 years. What? Okay, thank you. Moving on. So when this week, single card pulls, do not look up the meaning. If you already know the meaning and you want to mention it in your notes, fine. Totally fine. But this is about how do I feel about it? And feelings are big because this is the clairsentience part. Sometimes you'll get chills. Sometimes you'll get like pricklies. Like sometimes your stomach will go, ugh, yuck. So when you pull your card, make sure to include how do you feel? Does it make you feel hot, cold? Did you start sweating? Did you feel serene and happy about it? Okay, so again, cards that are yuck versus, oh, blessings. Any card can be a blessing, any card can be yuck. It's what is it bringing up in the moment, in the now? How does that information help me understand, bring clarity, add focus, and allow me to make a decision to move on? Because in tarot readings, this is not about being like, it's not fortune telling and it's not telling us these awful things are going to happen. This is about illuminating things in the moment, understanding, and allowing us the capacity to make a decision. Fate and free will always. The universe will pass messages and go, what are you going to do with those messages? Are we going to make mistakes on our decision making on those messages? Yes, continually. We're human. Are we going to have a lot of wins in those two? Yes, when we learn how to work with our intuition, we absolutely will. So don't judge this week, all right? Just let it all come out. Because the reason I teach is because I had a lot of confusion and I felt like I needed a lot of permission. And I'm like, if somebody would have just said, you don't need permission, you just need practice. Like, start with the practice. Start with grounding in this 3D realm, but allowing for the balance and the information to come through. What do messages look like? What do they sound like? What do they feel like? They look like so many things because we're all incredibly unique unicorns, right? So when you start a practice and you start taking notes and you ground it in this 3D incarnation, in writing, in pen, on paper, with a card, pretty soon you're going to start to see patterns and go, oh, I totally felt that. Every time that card comes out, I feel that. That means this for me. This is how this message is passed through this card for me or for my clients, right? Okay, so y'all are very quiet, which I love, which probably means you're taking notes, but if you have questions or comments, ask, okay? So your assignment this week is the tarot. We're not finished yet. The basic assignment is to pull one card every day this week, or as many days as you can. Really carve out time to journal about that single card. Do not look up the meaning. Don't go Googling it, please. Okay? If you know classic meanings, then put it in there. But this is about connecting to your intuition, what comes through for you, and building a practice of trust. It's like you're going to... all right. So for witches, right, because this is witches' work, you have the Book of Shadows. And you go, what is that? It's your journal where you write down the spells you tried and then the ones that really worked and then what you tweaked. You change the candle color or you change the time that you did the spell. And then you start to build a book of your own spell work and your craft that works for you. So what we're doing this week is beginning a journal of your own translation of the tarot for you. So it's bigger and cooler than you know, but it's also very practical and mundane in its first steps, as all magic is. No, not with the single card pulls, you are not. So I'm going to give you two other options this week, but you are not asking a question in your single card pulls this week. You are simply getting your deck out and a beautiful journal, and you're going to start a relationship with your intuition and this particular deck of tarot. Don't change decks this week. So this week is just about this week. You're going to come to your deck with a journal and a pen. You're going to draw one card and you're going to sit and you're going to journal everything you notice, everything you think, feel, see, or maybe hear, or just know, and whatever stories it makes you think of. That's it. Okay? You may, at the end of the week, so like when lesson 4 comes out, then you can go back and look up the traditional meanings of them. Or you could do it, see, I break all my own rules. I don't want you all walking into this single card week with preconceived notions of it. I want you working with your intuition. So you are not asking a question of the single card pulls. You're going to pull a card, you're going to journal about it. What do I see, hear, think, feel, or know? What stories does it bring up? What feelings does it bring up? What arguments, what conversations, what person does it make me think of? Did a random song pop into my head while I'm looking at this card? Write all of those things down. I'm going to break my rule here. You guys could, after each card, after you really finish journaling, look up the meaning, either from the book or online for like a classic reading of it. Because the booklets that come with each deck are different in the classic. Yeah, just pull and journal. Sorry for coughing. Because this week is about intuition. This is not about like the classic breakdown of the deck. But you could, after you did all of your journaling, go in and look at, well, where do those coincide? Like the classic meaning, the booklet meaning versus what I said. And so I get asked this a lot. Well, I pulled these things and this book said this, but I really feel this. Always, especially if it's a reading for yourself, go with what you feel. You know you better than anyone else. This is the classic intuition, and this is what happens in life. We feel one way about something, yet we analytically allow ourselves to talk ourselves out of it, or somebody else talks us out of it, and we went, oh, that made sense. Meanwhile, you completely negated your feels. Stop doing that. Okay? Because your power are in your feels, in your gut instincts, and your intuition, and navigating your own ship from your own internal moral compass. Not necessarily moral, but your own internal compass. Okay? So this journaling sensation then starts to bring you into the overlapping truths. Here's everything I got out of it. Then I kind of went to see, what do most people think about it? Or what did that person think about it? Are there overlapping truths? If there are overlapping truths between the booklet or an online classic search of what your intuition was, then you know that definitely had meaning in that card for you, through that deck. Different decks will be better for different topics. That's not what we're going to talk about today, but I'm just going to throw that out there. Okay? So let's see. Yeah, this is, I wrote a note, bad witches. Like, bad witches always go with your intuition. Don't go with what's written. Don't go with what the booklet says. Don't even go with the traditional meaning of it. Again, for my unicorns, you're highly psychic and highly sensitive and highly intuitive. That's why you're a member of unicornwellness.studio. So you're going to need to go with your intuition. And again, I battled that for years. I just don't hear that or see this out of this. And here's what the book's telling me. And I couldn't get things to match. And then I thought I wasn't any good. Meanwhile, I'm dead on when I get with people in the energies, right? Because there's a channeled aspect of things. You're using a deck of tarot cards as a tool of divination to connect you. It's a connection. It's like old school. I was talking about like old school, like telephone wires. This is your plug. We're going to plug this into this person so you can talk to them across the world or across the street. That's going to look like different things to each person. Okay? All right. So, yep, here we go. Okay, so if you're more practiced in your tarot, or if you want to play. Now, I'm saying this with a little bit of a red flag alert. You are always welcome to experiment with any of these readings. What can happen to beginner readers as you're learning a tarot practice is that you start to jump into the deep end of the pool without being able to doggy paddle first, right? So the more cards you get in a reading, the more confusing it can get to get a message through, to understand what it means. And in my opinion, ain't nothing you can't answer with a 3-card reading. And if you'll look at what I do, some of the bigger readings, there's 7-card readings, and those are overviews for the year. You know, like these are your solar return. I use a 7-card reading for the full moon and monthly, but these are bigger energies that we're dealing with, right? So I'm saying you can play with the 3 or 5-card readings this week if you like. But if you are completely brand new, it may frustrate you and it may not burgeon love with a tarot relationship. It may just brew frustration. So I'm just going to put that out there because the more cards you get, the more messaging you have to figure out how it goes together. Okay. So let's look at this. Okay. So the 3-card pull. this is the 3-card pull that I use. Now, know that when you look online, you can see all kinds of card layouts, and you are welcome to play with them. But my hope and goal is to get you all anchored in intuition, to be getting clear messages for yourself consistently, not add confusion and make it be big and fancy. It doesn't need to be big and fancy. Basics work. 1 and 3 card readings totally can rule the roost. Okay. So the 3-card reading that I use in my readings is 1 card. So it's like you pull 1 card, is getting ahead of myself. In a 3-card reading, you do need to pose a question. Okay. So you're going to ask a question. Make it specific, make it clear, give it a time frame. Okay. Meaning, what do I need to do this week to grow my business? Okay, that's different than what needs to be done this year to grow my business, right? So the specifics matter. If you don't know what to ask, because it's classic, right? Always house it under, what are the next best steps for my highest and greatest good? Because we're not specifically looking for the tarot to tell us what to do. We're asking it to illuminate the choices that would be better for our highest and greatest good along the path. So fate and free will, choice. So you want to make sure that the question that you ask allows for choice and allows for divinity to go, I know you thought you needed to be doing this, but we're going to throw a little window here and see if you hear it, because that's going to take you down a different path. Okay? So in a 3-card reading, you will ask a specific question, give it details, give it a time frame. And if you don't have a question, what are the next best steps for my highest and greatest good? I would give it a time frame. Today, this week, this month, this year. Okay? And then you're going to pull 1, 2, 3 cards. Okay? The first card is the answer to your question. The second card is the spirit in which to move through things. When things get confusing, when they get frustrating, when you feel like you've hit a dead end, when you just don't know, and you're like, I can't hear anything, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. This is the practical card of how to navigate through. Okay? And then the last card is a bonus card. What is the way, what is the additional information that needs to be seen, heard, or known right now? Then in these 3-card readings, you're going to do exactly as you did in your single card readings. You're going to journal, journal, journal. Okay? So it's a longer process when we're looking to engage in your intuition. After you have journaled about all 3 of these things, it's a bit of a creative writing project to get the meaning out of it. You want to start to weave your own story through the cards. How does this card speak to this card, speaks to this card? It can be a complete imagination tour here. Right? This card makes me think, so I'm going to write a story about it. Okay, great. There's this couple standing in the background and they're finally getting time alone because the grandfather's come over to like watch the kid, and that makes everybody feel abundant and loved, and there's forgiveness and safety and security here. And then you've got this girl who's like completely tied up and she looks like she's in bondage. Maybe she likes it. So you can start to go, oh, hey, they get a date night, whereas the female thought that she was bound and there was no joy and that all she's doing is working and it's complicated. Meanwhile, there's nobody there wielding those swords for her, right? So there's a false sense of fear here. And then in the end, there's justice, there's balance, there's a gift, there's a breakthrough, there's solidarity, there is stability in things. So in a 3-card reading, journal, 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 then start to see how those 3 pieces can sew together, okay, to make a story. And that's all you're going to do for right now in these 3-card readings is weave them, write it out, just see what you come up with. And the weirder the better. This is not about cognitively crafting. This is about stream of consciousness. This is about plugging into intuitive and channeled messages. What does it make you feel? What does it make you think like? It doesn't need to be fancy. There's no right, there's no wrong. Just see what comes of this week, okay? If you can do this daily, great. But you are going to need more time to journal these out. Oh, good. Yeah, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Then you have the 5-card spread. So I did say in this course we would cover 1, 3, and 5-card spreads. Again, because we have a huge, diverse level of readers in our community and in this session. So some of you are touching the deck for the very first time. Others have had a deck for, years, and you're like, okay, I need to really move this forward. Yeah, it's wonderful homework, right? I mean, this is the funny part of like witchcraft and witches and tarot. People think that we're like wild and woolly and like brewing nasty things. Meanwhile, we're home with our journals and tea. That's what we're doing. We're looking for self-inquiry. We're looking for ways to understand. We're looking for ways to heal, connect, and to help. And so when you build your own journal of your intuition, you start to see what language the universe speaks through and to you. Because there are ways in which the universe speaks, right? Time, digits, repeating numbers, things get dropped in our path in our house, like there's cards on the sidewalk or little toys or things, like anything odd out of the ordinary that pulls there's a lot of ways to get messages. But when it comes to the tarot, you need to start seeing, like, how do you speak to the cards? How do the cards speak to you? That's all, because that's going to make all of that so much easier. Okay, the 5-card spread. So this is one that you can ask a question of. However, I think this one is a beautiful one under the umbrella, or what are the next best steps forward for my highest and greatest good? Absolutely give this one a timeline. Today, this week, this year. Because there are more cards, you have the opportunity for more confusion. Okay, so this is not a have to this week. This is an offering if you want to try. You could, what just happened? My phone, the lighting just did something crazy. You absolutely could do this 5-card reading as the week's messaging. Then do the daily single card readings. Does that make sense? Okay. So in a 5-card reading, you're going to pull, there's one upside down here. However often you shuffle, how much you shuffle, it's totally up to you. If you've read the Unicorn Wellness Handbook, I go through how to cleanse your deck there. We didn't talk about it here, but go back to, so lesson 2, we did cleansing, clearing, and candle work. Cleanse your space before you do a reading, because you want to do that before any ritual. So in a 5-card reading, you can lay them out straight in a row. The way I usually do it is 1, 2, like a little pyramid, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so guess what? It's Intuitive Tarot this week. You're going to do the same thing, right? You're going to write down 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you're going to see what they bring to mind. This takes a longer period of time. Yes, so interesting that you mentioned that too, right? I realize that also, that animal symbolism is a big way that the universe speaks to me. And it's always funny when it comes out, because it's got a lot of repetition in the time period. It usually lasts for about a week, week and a half. And so yes, animal symbolism is a big one for me also. So we all have different ways. Not everybody gets that, and that's totally fine. Some people are really big on their dreams and go, no, I saw this, I heard this, like right on. But we're all slightly unique and different, as we should be. So we need to get to know ourselves and our pattern of communication with the divine. So in a 5-card spread for this assignment this week, you could ask a question, but I encourage you all to work with, what are the next best steps for my highest and greatest good this week, this month, this year? Card 1 is the energy in which you are right now. This is the energy of now. This is where we're starting from. Journal about that. Card 2, the next best steps forward. Nice and easy, okay? Journal everything that it brings to mind. 3, how things are really going to transition for the better. Now, this can also be looked at as big steps for my highest and greatest good. This is how things are really, 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 really going to change. Okay? But you can't do the big changing until you do the next little changing. Okay? Then 4 are the assets to the situation. Assets to this week, to this month, to you. These are good things. And these can be things that, like, you didn't think were an asset, but it could be. Like, super random. I'm sitting here looking at my Instapot. We just got an Instapot a week ago. Well, that's an asset to this household right now because cook times are going down on a lot of our staples. We're spending less time in the kitchen, so there's less stress for mommy and daddy because we're very committed and need to be committed to whole, clean food. So we cook every meal in this house, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We don't eat out periodically, but not really. So that is a weird blessing, right? That's an asset to the situation. Time is being saved, which means there's less stress. Okay? Then 5 is the outcome. Okay, so this is again when you're asking in a period, like what's going to be the shakeout of this week or of this month or of this year. All right. Okay, now's the time for questions because we're coming to an end. It's a lot of information today, a lot, but then again, it's not. We got a tarot deck. There's 78 cards. You're going to pull 1. You might try pulling 3, or you might pull 5. The email that goes out tomorrow for those who registered for Witches Work, you'll get these questions and the layouts, like what to ask, what to do, what not to do in that email, so you can refer back to it. But hopefully you guys were taking notes today for those who could stick around. Where are we going? Yeah. Right? So, I mean, blessings look like a lot of things. Choices look like a lot of things. Miracles look like a lot of things, you know? So just remember that. Anchoring into Witches Work, anchoring into a tarot practice really does make mundane day-to-day things really beautiful and a lot more fun and much richer and more meaningful. It really asks us to look at the small things, to self-reflect, and to anchor into how do we feel about it? What do we think about it? That's really all that matters. Honestly, is that we start to feel really good about what we're doing in the world, what we're putting out in the world, and the decisions that we made. Knowing that there's no perfect, there's no way to make everybody happy, and honestly, we don't answer to anyone. Now, you may and do answer to a partner or to your family, your family. Remember that we actually don't have to answer to parents or to extended family. We do have to answer to our partners because we've chosen that. So the tarot is a way to get really grounded, to allow reflection back, to anchor into allegory, myth, heroes, and metaphors of the human psyche. It's a way to sift and sort, especially if you got a lot of prominent Pisces in your chart. Man, that empath feels. That can be really hard for us to know, how do we really feel? Because we're feeling everybody else's stuff, and we can understand everybody else's stuff, but we need to be able to understand our stuff. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. Thank you for being here live with me if you could take the time out today. Make sure to like this video when you come across it again, or if you're watching it after the fact. Please subscribe to this channel. So there's shifts and twists in these videos and these sessions. Oh, good. Oh, thank you, Joy. Good. So the goal is to not make it scary. It's fun. It's really fun. And life gets really beautiful when you do it consistently. That's been my experience. That's the experience I've seen with clients who have practice of their own. That doesn't mean you don't come get a reading from time to time. It doesn't mean I don't get a reading from time to time from other people. It just becomes your own practice to really hone and build a relationship in quiet that's yours without somebody peering over your shoulder where you're doing that wrong. Because you're not doing it wrong. Okay? You're exactly where you're supposed to be in the evolution of the journey that you're supposed to be in at all times. Because you made choices. And if you don't like the choices you made before, then now's the time to go, I'm going to make a choice. And I'm going to learn how to make heart-centered choices that are anchored into my intuition and my belief systems. And then just sit really firmly in them. And go, okay, that one fucked up. That one was a disaster. That's okay, because we're going to learn out of all of those things. If you're not failing, you're not learning. And that goes in with these videos. So I'm going to make some shifts. This one was live. I may do lesson 4 live as well. We will have Detox Your Brain in February. There will be 4 lessons. I'm going to probably do them live as well because it cuts down on editing time on the back end. And then after Detox Your Brain, I'm going to take a pause this year. I have taken on too much with these sessions. They're beautiful, but they're big of themselves. And I want to give them the time that they deserve and the energy that they deserve. And I am really looking to clean up my schedule to be able to spend more time with my family and to have more rest and recovery time for you all. So we had planned to do sessions all year long. I imagine that they will be back this year, but I am also very committed to crafting and to creating Intuitive Tarot 101 in some capacity this year. So it just, there's some shifting that's happening, that's all. But we'll finish out Witch's work. We will definitely have Detox Your Brain happening, and then we'll see what comes next. But I just appreciate you being really, organic in the flow with me as a learning process also. My goal is to teach you and to show up for you all in the biggest capacities. If there's not interest in what I'm teaching, then we don't need to do it. Or if it's not an integrity for me and a balance of work and life, then I can't do it. And so sometimes we try things and we go, yeah, didn't really work the way I thought it was going to, and we need to take a pause for the better. So I appreciate you coming on this journey with me always. I'm so in gratitude of you all for watching these videos and participating in these sessions and being a member of unicornwellness.studio. Because this is about self-evaluation and simplicity and not being noisy in the world. And the unicornwellness.studio membership is enough in and of itself to support you and to move you forward. These sessions are powerful and fun, but I really want you focusing on getting on the mat, listening to the tarot there, using the meditation there, and eventually doing the food reset. Because if you do those 4 things, it will change your life. So if you're watching this video, you're not currently a member, or you have no idea what we're talking about, there's a link below for 30 days free on my membership-based site, unicornwellness.studio, okay? When I get this video up with the description, I'm also going to have a couple books, little tarot books that I love that in the future you might look to help with your personal practice. What else? I think that's it. I love you all very much. I am really so appreciative of you being here and showing up like spur of the moment, literally. And I want to read these last comments to make sure I don't miss answering any question. Thank you, Shauna. I mean, yeah, if you were here from the beginning of the video, or if you, saw... Uh-oh. Did you guys just... Oh, I'm still there. Did you totally hear me curse? Probably. I'm so sorry. I hit something and I thought it turned us off. It was just my phone. See, this is what we get when I record on my phone. It is my perspective and my personality. I choose not to delve off the deep end into the dark. We do always have choice. We always have free will. And we do have the choice to look at it from a positive perspective and to go, that's a fucking disaster and I need to do something to shift it. So what can I positively shift it towards? How can I get help? How can I make this better? And how can I get to my lesson in it? This comes from a place in me. I'm gonna be real honest. I have had, I could read you the laundry list of trauma in my life that would have capsized a person. And that's not because it's ego. I was capsized for a significant period of time. And by really anchoring into it and going, where's the lesson? Where's the blessings? And when shit goes really wrong, you always go to divine spirit, right? You start praying real fast. But praying isn't enough. So that's not what we're here to do in this lifetime. We're here to pray and to listen, but we're in a 3D incarnation because we need to make choices and we need to do. So it's always a balance of masculine and feminine, right? Willpower and surrender, of doing versus waiting and pausing. You can't just do one or the other. Either is an imbalance. So when I read tarot, I do look for the beauty. And when I teach you all, it is Reiki healing by proxy because I see in you a healed whole self. I know who your spirit is. I know who you really are. I know who we are. But sometimes it takes that outside, uncomfortable, kind of icky work in doing to get back to that physically, to remember that mentally and emotionally and energetically. It's there. So I'm not going to waste my time as a reader or as a teacher on all the negative off the cliff things. I'm going to go, that's a negative off the cliff thing. Can you see that? Can we take some responsibility? Okay, let's walk that way because you don't have to jump off the cliff. And that is me. And that doesn't mean I'm Holly go lightly. either or think that shit's just going to happen magically. I do, but because I'm committed to that balance, I have places, I'm on this journey with you, where I need to take more self-responsibility and more ownership and step into a more empowered space. The shift and transition in sessions, again, is about that. I have taken on too much. And it's not serving really for the highest and greatest good just yet. I think it can closely in the future, but I really need a team in order to do that. And in order to have a team, there's some basic financial things that have to happen as a business, right? It's got to grow. So that's just me being honest. Like, I do think life is beautiful. I think a connection to the divine and remembering that is gorgeous. I'm more comfortable in the ethers with the divine than I am in this day-to-day life. But it is about balance. So I have to learn some of the balance practical pieces. And I think that most of the clients that come to me actually are good in the balance practical pieces, but need more help engaging in the magical. So I love you very much. My goal is to bring beauty and love and expansion. And I refuse to let false paradigms or preconceived notions of what the terror is or who or what a witch is limit my capacity to teach or our capacity to grow in love. Okay? So there's my soapbox. I'll put it away. I love you very much. If you have any questions or comments, put them below. I would love to hear below why you want to engage in an intuitive practice with the tarot. Like, why are you taking the session? Why does this week speak to you? Tell me, share. Just like we stated, I am a witch in week 1 and why that's important and powerful. You know, in the movement capacity to it. So your question below that I would love to hear you answer in the comments is, you know, why are you engaging in a tarot practice? Why do you want to delve deeper and into an intuitive process? Or why do you want to learn it from me? Okay? I love you very much. And I will see you next week and we'll do it live. And I totally cursed and I'm sorry about that. I love you all. Okay? I will see you soon.